actually like kind of exciting to be filming the road in the dark. Like usually in Iowa it's just straight.
Yeah. There's not many straight stretches.
About zero.
It's a good way to hit deer.
Yeah.
There's one right there.
I told you the story the one time I was in the hometown in Iowa there.
Yeah.
The lady was like, our deer are just smarter, I think. They don't get hit as much as they do back east. And I was like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, they just stand on the road and they look. They know when to cross the road. And I was like, well, maybe it's because we got straight, flat roads. Yeah, a lot different in here.
And we've got like 9,000 times the number of roads.
Yes, truth. Odds go up significantly when that's the case.
That's why we got this car to hit them. Alright, we're headed in this morning. We're going to drop down off the point that Logan sat at last night. I was in there yesterday and got a vantage from the other way. There's a line of scrapes where he saw 2 different bucks go through. We're going to try to get down to that spot and get to where we can shoot to those scrapes. It looks to be a pretty good funnel of movement between 2 ponds. We're hoping to catch one of these bucks coming through in the morning. We got about probably an hour of dark to get in there now, so we got to hustle. But we got a good south wind so far. Hopefully it stays consistent down there. Made our first setup of the morning. We got out on this point. Overlooks a big valley. There's a couple ponds below us. And off to our right, when we were coming in this morning, we saw some does on the bench below us. They kind of just worked their way towards where we are now. So we decided to come loop back around them and get up on top here. On the aerial map, there's a ton of trails converging right where this point comes up. Down below us, there's a crossing between 2 ponds that I found yesterday. And we're expecting the deer to kind of funnel through that up on this bench in front of us and be moving around. Our plan is to sit here for a couple minutes and then slowly work the edge of this hill where we can see down across. There's plenty of autumn olive bushes to kind of dive into if we need to. But I think getting eyes on a deer today is going to help a lot. Be able to make them move and kind of predict where they're going from where we see them. I think we got a good chance of seeing something today, don't you?
Yeah. You can see a lot.
And if we just move from bush to bush, I mean, we're really just slinking along like a deer.
Yeah.
And we look like 2 moving bushes out here. I got enough briars on me to camo. We sat here for a bit, kind of observing both sides of this point. We did see some does on the other side of the point, and they worked off towards where Logan saw that buck last night. We haven't seen anything close to us. It's kind of disappointing. We were expecting to see some deer at least milling around at this bottom. Since we haven't seen anything recently, we're going to get back in the car, kind of drive the loop, check on some things. We're thinking about doing an afternoon kind of speed scout setup kind of deal. We've got a spot potentially picked out for the evening. Either way, I think getting in the car and at least giving Zach a perspective on where we're at is going to help us. As you can tell, there's a lot of country and a lot of it's open. You never know, you could drive around and see something too. It's kind of a little bit of a warmer morning. We did see some deer moving on the way in out on private and stuff. It could just be kind of not doing as much this morning. Kind of overcast, a little wet. We got some good mornings coming up though. I mean, lows in the high 20s and 30s again, and highs in the 40s. So we got some prime days coming up, I think. I guess. I want to say Michigan.
No front plates.
No front plate. Nice truck. Lives in the Ann Arbor region. A little bit of money. Tippy.
Tippy.
I don't know what that means.
What state?
I've seen him before though. North Carolina. Oh, Tippy was up on this road 2 days ago.
You got a better pattern on the humans than the deer, bud.
Yep. It's almost like we're dumber creatures.
So Ben and I just pulled into a spot that he's been looking at on the map. And we definitely wanted to get up in here and check it out, see if there's lots of good sign. We're on the south side of it, kind of in a similar location, and we saw some pretty good sign yesterday, but this is even deeper back in here. And we hopped out of the car and we were kind of glassing around. And I spotted a deer. We're pretty sure it's a doe up on this hillside. If it is a doe, there could be a buck with her. What we're really interested in is further back, so we're just going to keep still hunting through looking for sign. And then we got a good evening plan for later. Probably get up here for a couple hours and then drop back out of here.
Sounds like a plan, man.
Hopefully run into some bucks.
Just keep your eyes on him. Because now we got something to work with for the rest of the day. Besides the bruises. He might go right back into that stuff, dude. You know what I mean? Or he might just get up and start cruising. He may have a doe, who knows, but it looks like we got a perfect place to go right at him. And get really dang close. We kept working that transition above the pond down towards the big funnel that we were kind of working towards. As we step into this opening, Zach looks across, and there's a big patch of cattails that runs up the hill, and sure enough, he sees a buck coming out right at the bottom of those cattails. He's just been kind of browsing around. We saw another little bit smaller buck up the hill from him pop out for a second too. They're just browsing around their beds, it seems. Got a few hours to make a move on this guy. Like to see where he lays down.
He's good, he's good.
He's kind of working left. I wonder. There's a patch of like sumac right by him. I wonder if he'll just go lay on that.
Maybe. He's right here. If he beds there, we're going to be able to get on that side and just ease down that edge right to him. I mean, he's walking like he's about to bed down.
Alright, so we think that buck just bedded down out there. And we think we got a really good move. The wind is blowing this way. It makes total sense why he's there. He's bedded right there on a transition line where he can watch does moving back and forth, and he can also watch this hillside. Ben and I are going to crawl down this hill, and then we're going to hit that transition and go right towards him and get as close as possible. He doesn't have a doe, so he's probably going to be cruising here in the next couple hours. So, of course, we have no water. We have no food. We haven't ate anything today. You got to be hungry to hunt, so we're just getting ourselves in that mindset.
Well, we made it across the pond. There actually was a land bridge this time. We cut across it. There's a lot of rubs and tracks going through there. But setting up down there, our wind we don't think would be consistent enough. So we decided to stick with our original plan. Come down across these cattails where he was bedded beside. There's a lot of, fresh beds and fresh droppings right around here. He's been hanging out here. We're still just working this cattail transition up, trying to be real cautious. But we think our setup's not super far away. At this point, we think if he's still where we saw him last, he's about 200 yards away bedded. But he's watching this flat, so we need to be careful as we crest it. It's pretty hot. finally made it up to the cattails, kind of where we saw him last before we went back to bed. Got a 25-yard shot to the lane that he was on. There's a fresh rub on it. We're kind of expecting does to maybe come down from the right. Him bedded up on the hillside to pick him off, where he watched him work that bench down to the creek crossing we went through earlier. It's about 4 o'clock right now. Got an hour and a half or so of daylight. We're just set up in the goldenrod. Either way, we're in a pretty sweet spot for tonight, I think. I mean, there's tons of bedding sign and feeding sign in here. Looking forward to this. Just heard something to the left. I don't know what that was. Definitely not a good sign, though. I don't know. I think I can. There growls in. Unless the thermal's just switched. Oh, there went a buck. Yeah. I don't know if it's the same one or not. Son of a gun, I still didn't get any tank footage of it. Well, it's getting to be about the end of shooting light, and pretty sure our chances are toast for tonight. But we got up here, did see a deer come down. It sounded like Zach heard him come through the cattails behind us, and our wind is just kind of dropping into there. And we ended up hearing a deer snort, and then a few minutes later, he saw that buck run back up the hill. So chances are it got down behind us. Probably should have set up where we crossed the creek down there. When we were down there earlier this afternoon, we got kind of panicked because the wind was just swirling bad. And at this point, we thought the deer was just up above us. So we got out of there and got up to this higher point where it was more consistent. Well, in the end, it ended up not working out for us. The wind, the thermals ended up pulling, and the deer moved below us. I guess we learned something tonight. We made a move on a buck and found a pretty sweet spot back here. And there's a lot more to chase on farther back.
We'll be back after him tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. In some fashion. Might be in a wheelchair.